Aloha, movie nerds, dorks, and weirdos. Welcome to the spoiler review of The Smashing Machine, written, directed, and edited by Bennie Safdie, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emily Blunt, and Ryan Bader. I really liked this movie. I really left the movie just elated, having a great time. I've been a fan of The Rock since I was a little kid, and not wrestling. I was specifically a fan of The Rock. There's a lot of people of different backgrounds who may say, "Oh, there's not enough representation for me," and all that stuff. And I feel for you, but in my case, The Rock was my only representation growing up as a Hawaiian Samoan person. So for me, it really means something different. I grew up with stars of other backgrounds, enjoying them in place of never having any actual representation until Jason Momoa showed up. So, and I didn't even know that one guy from The Matrix was Samoan either. But really, it was talk about slim pickings for representation. So The Rock meant a lot to me as a young person. When he started getting into movies, now he was into my genre. He was into what I loved. The Rundown was amazing. So to watch The Rock go from that, being a fan of his from a young age, and to watch him now across so many decades finally do a movie like this, I felt like this is absolutely what he has been training for and working hard for, and probably it's the best reason for him to maintain his physical appearance and also be into movies. It's a wonderful combination of everything he's done. And I feel, with maybe the exception of the crying scenes, that he really disappeared into this role. And I don't know if he couldn't cry, but it's funny that I was just watching an interview with a director who was talking about working with another actor. And the director had said, I said to the guy, if you can't cry, it's okay. Just cover your eyes. It's fine. I don't care. And in that particular scene, this is not related to The Smashing Machine, but it was another interview with another director. I can't even remember which one it was right now. But I had just seen this interview yesterday. So it's so funny when I watch this movie and there's the crying scenes and he's covering his eyes. I'm like, oh, I see you. The director said you could do it, so you did it. That's cool. But besides that, or because of that clip, the whole time I'm like, is he just miming it because he can't cry? And no shade on The Rock, because acting, hey, it's a specialty skill. No shade on The Rock. It was just amusing and funny to me because I'd just seen that clip. And so when The Rock did it, I couldn't help but think, oh, is he having trouble actually crying? Or is this just how he cries? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But other than that specific, very me specific issue, because I'd seen that particular video yesterday, other than that, I really felt The Rock completely disappeared into this role. If you haven't seen The Smashing Machine, let me tell you, there's not a lot of fights in it. It's mostly a drama, but I do think it's a very good time at the theaters. I left the movie very elated, very happy, feeling like I want to work out. And I just think it's a solid picture. So that's as spoiler free as I can get. But this is the spoiler video. So if you have seen the movie, that's who this is here for. I really recommend, if you haven't seen the movie, you can go see my spoiler free video and see if that helps you watch it. But frankly, that's not how I do things. If I want to see something, I just go see it. I don't care what other people think. That's nonsense to me. Who cares what some YouTube reviewer thought? I want to go see something, I'm going to go see it. So that's the camp I'm in. You want to go see it, go see it. All right? And then you can talk about whether you liked it or not. But that's where we are. So if you've seen the movie, I'm here to talk about it. I've already talked about the first spoiler, how he cries. Okay. Only because I saw that clip, I'm like, are you really crying, The Rock? Are you really crying? I don't care. I don't personally care. You know, it doesn't change the movie for me. But that's where I'm coming from. So, yeah, spoiler talk, spoiler talk. The opening of this movie just starts off with audio, right? I love how this movie just gets us into hearing The Rock's voice as Mark Kerr. It's kind of montagey style. And you hear his confidence is so insane. But you watch him win his first match. And then it's apparently nothing but wins from that point on. No, it's a whole montage of wins. But to just hear that voice, and when he's Mark Kerr, he's Mark Kerr. He's not Rocky Maivia. So I thought the opening was a beautiful way to just walk me into the movie and forget that he's The Rock and just absorb that this is a different guy. I want to say I may have said it already in the spoiler free, but hats off to the director and the cinematographer. I love the look of the film. I love how the movie goes back and forth between looking like a documentary in the 90s, filmed in the 90s, and sometimes just being very cinematically clean and just being a movie. But I just always feel like I'm in the 90s in this movie. And I love just the way they shoot it, how when we're with The Rock walking around his home and the camera's just kind of following him. As I'm watching it, I'm kind of being taken away. I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool how they shoot it this way. Why are they shooting it this way? I realize it's always documentary like when Mark Kerr is doing something he shouldn't be doing. You know, it's documentary like when he walks into his home, he looks around, he sees Emily Blunt's not home, but he looks like he's looking for something. No, he's looking to make sure no one can catch him. Nobody's home. He walks around, and that's what the point of the shot is. And then the next shot where we follow him into his bedroom and he takes out the opiates and does those. I just love how the camera just moves and follows him, but it follows him into a different transformation. Okay, the house is clear. Now I'm going to get high. And I like that approach. It's just one of those things that makes me think that there's a clip of, I don't know what the show is. I've seen this on Instagram. Maybe it's from The Bear. I don't know. There's a clip of a scene from a show. I believe it's a TV show where a woman and a young man, they're working in the back of a restaurant. And the young man, he's supposed to do a task that requires him to roll up his sleeves. And the woman says, why are you doing that? That's not how you do your job. You're supposed to, come on. And she tries to roll up his sleeves when he's trying to roll them down and hide his wrists. And then she sees his wrists. I can't remember if it's either scars or it's a bandage. And she realizes right away he's hiding a suicide attempt. And the camera work just kind of, there's not any cutting. We're just in this shot, this wide shot that moves in and moves out. And you're just in the moment with these two people as they're feeling their feelings. And that scene is how this movie is shot. I love that. I love that when we see The Rock starting to become an asshole when he's on the drugs to Emily Blunt. And the camera will just kind of zoom in and walk with her as The Rock asks her to take a picture of him with all these cool people that he works with. And she cries because she realizes like she just flew all this way to another country to be with him, and as soon as she shows up, he's acting weird because he's stoned. And what we learned from the previous scene I was just talking about, where he's walking around the house making sure she's not home, is that he's basically been hiding the fact that he's stoned, that he's high, from her, and she has just walked in to him being that way. And I love the way the camera, again, when she walks in that first in that exposed scene when he's in Japan, he's training with Ryan Bader, who plays Mark Coleman, and she walks in. She's just flown to Japan to see him, and it's super awkward because he just got high and they're just starting to train and do stuff, and they both look a little funny, but they both act awkward. But then the camera just kind of pushes in on and follows Mark Coleman as he's walking around, and it seems like a weird path that he's walking around, and he's grabbing things that are off screen. We don't see what he's touching. He's just kind of acting like he's doing something natural and normal and just trying to give them space. But I think really he's hiding the drugs and getting it out of the scene. So, but the fact that the camera focuses on that, and the same with them when it's on Emily Blunt and she's crying, it's the very next scene, and she's crying, taking a picture, like you realize that he's got a hidden life from her, and it's making him messed up, and that's what's killing her, is that she is there for him, but he's distant for a reason, and it's these drugs, and she has to keep this secret because she doesn't want to blow his chances at succeeding or causing trouble. And it's just this awkward scene, but the way the camera just picks who it's going to follow and follows them for these given little moments. Not that there isn't editing and we don't cut here and there. It's not exactly the same as the scene I talked about that I saw on Instagram. But I really liked this documentary style. It's not just when he's doing something he shouldn't be doing, but whenever there's a tension or a secret, that's when it feels the most like a documentary. Or even the fights. It just feels like we're there too. And not in the action movie of, oh, we're up close to them. No, it feels like, no, we're there watching the show, watching the fight. And I just really like that style. Once more, I have the holy trinity of cinematic rocks joining me. Black Adam rock, Scorpion King rock, and although it does not exist in a movie, Ghostbuster rock, which should exist in a movie. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This came out before your movie. You screwed up. Big time. Anyway, yeah, but I love the shooting style of the movie. I thought it's very documentary style. Even the look of the film, it reminds me a bit of the movie Mid-90s. If you have not seen Mid-90s, if you like drama, Mid-90s was written and directed by Jonah Hill. I believe it's his directorial debut, and it's about latchkey kids running around the streets of Los Angeles. If you don't know the term latchkey kid, basically kids who are left home alone a lot. They have the keys to their home. They're free to run around. And it's all these latchkey kids having their little adventures. And one of them's a filmmaker. All of them are skateboarders. And the main character, though, he has this unspoken drama with his brother and his mother that's never directly addressed, but you realize at the end of the movie that his mom's a prostitute and that these people are actually living pretty close to the edge all the time. And that's kind of the subtext of all the adventures that this kid's going on, because his brother is so withdrawn, you never see him, and yet this one kid is having an incredible life adventure. So it's a really cool, the way that movie is shot and looks as well feels like we're in the 90s. It's literally called Mid-90s, and I would say Smashing Machine achieves a very similar look to that. I was very impressed with that. I've said it already in the spoilers, but hats off to hair and makeup and costumes as well, because the scene with Emily Blunt and her friend at the restaurant, I'm like, I was really taken away by that. He's like, oh my god, these are the girls I used to be like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, ooh, hello. Um, yeah, there's a fond memory I have as a kid in the '90s when I never told my sister this, but my sister once, as kind of a gag, got her best friend to sort of, they were both putting on red lipstick, and she got her best friend to kiss me a couple times on the head, leaving all these red lipstick marks. It was kind of a gag because I was so little. But I never told her this, so just don't tell her. This is between you and me, okay? I had a kind of, her best friend was kind of one of my first crushes because I would look up and think she was so beautiful. And the fact that she did that, I never told her, so she didn't know. You know, I was functionally not interested in anything back then, as far as anyone should tell. But yeah, so I've always sort of held on to that. But then when I saw that scene with Emily Blunt and her friend, I'm like, oh my god, it's my sister and her friend, and Emily Blunt's the friend. You know what I mean? Because I thought, wow, the woman she's with, also attractive, but she looks kind of like my sister. I'm like, wait a minute, oh that's right, we're in the '90s. I'm back in time. So just the experience of feeling like being in the '90s was kind of worth it for me. I was like, oh man, what a much better decade. I know we had some problems that were worse back then, but man, I hate the 2020s. The 2020s have been terrible. What an awful decade we're in. Just to be back, I gotta say, was really cool. The whole opiate addiction, I'm glad they didn't get too much into it. I really, sometimes in movies, it's a detriment to the movie when you kind of glaze over things. But I like that this movie felt like a documentary, as such that when we kind of just move through the moments, like The Rock goes to, or he goes to rehab, we don't see rehab. We don't see it at all. We see his friend, who maybe he was also getting paid by The Rock to be his trainer. His friend, who was his trainer, who's also a wrestler, is now with The Rock out for the count because he's got to deal with his opiate addiction. Now he is running around trying to get in as many fights as he can to make money to support his family. And I like his little scene too, with his daughter. He's fake fighting his daughter. Dad won. Like, that's such a nice scene. As a kid, I never cared for these things, but now as an uncle who's helped raise a couple kids, I'm like, oh man, this is fun. This is so weird that this is fun. But this, whenever my nephew runs up to me, ooh, oh, we're fighting. Oh no, we're sword fighting. It's kind of fun playing again. But I just like them all as characters. I like that all these characters are actually very nice people. Complete 180 from Uncut Gems, where everyone was kind of seedy in that movie. Even the actress who plays, not the actress, but even the wife of Adam Sandler's character, just has this kind of I don't care about anything but me vibe. It's just so seedy and uncomfortable. But I really liked that The Smashing Machine, despite its title, is really about a lot of very nice people, a lot of very nice, well-meaning people. Even the Russian guy, who I thought, oh, this is going to be the arch nemesis for the whole movie. Even he just comes back after the fight where he beats The Rock, and even he comes back and just is like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, I'm okay, I'm fine. And then they take a picture together because it's all in good fun. I just thought that was wonderful. Getting into the story beats, I really like how the sort of what the movie's about, the incident that the movie is real, that shifts the entire direction of the movie is that The Rock loses. He loses 20 minutes into the movie, and at first, like, it seems like he can deal with it, but then you see him depressed, not able to eat his food. His girlfriend tries to make him feel better, and just that sort of world shifting feeling, like, I'm not number one. There's another number one out there, and I'm not it. To see that happen to him, and it's just very much a guy movie. I think it's such a, like, I get it. Like, you try to be this indomitable presence in your life, and then someone just shows up and lets you know you're not indomitable, and it makes you feel so small. And to just knowing what that experience is, I'm like, oh man, I feel this. I totally feel it. Which This is why I really like that scene where Emily Blunt gets in the UFO ride at the carnival. I really like it because she's trying to get him to do something that he can't do. My tummy, my tummy. I love that. My tummy can't handle it. It's like he sounds like a little kid, but it's sweet. He just shows you he's a good person, or he's at the very least, a well-intended person. And seeing that scene when she is just enjoying the ride of life, like, literally she's turned upside down and she's still laughing. It's so poignant. She's trying to get The Rock to understand that losing is not the end of the world, and you do just have to keep going. And this is why we keep going, so you can enjoy yourself and come back and win another day, live to fight another day. And she is the embodiment of life can be fun. Life can really be fun. And he's the embodiment of that laser focus. When I was watching the movie, I did have a point where I was like, man, we're not really showing that much of their personal life because he's always working. And then it occurred to me as I was having the thought, when they're finally having their fight with each other, where she runs out and she's like, you're never around, you don't let me in, you're always this, you're always that. And at first I was on his side. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I really thought about the movie I've been watching, and I was like, oh no. The first scene they have together, again, the first scenes, now this is something I want screenwriters, directors, myself, this is also for myself. The first scene they have together, this is what good writing looks like. The first scene they have together establishes what their conflict is. Okay, this is how all movies work. When you see Star Wars, the first scene you see is the big ship chasing the little ship, right? So it's the whole notion of what the movie's about is the conflict between an overarching enemy and seemingly all-powerful overarching enemy, someone with all these resources chasing someone who's really at the end of their rope. When you look at the opening of this movie, and it's this voiceover of The Rock talking about how much he loves winning, and how that's the real drug for him, is the attention and the winning. And so everything he does is to get that at the end of the fight. So that's what his character is about. When we first see Emily Blunt and she's making his drink for him, she's trying to be supportive, right? And then he's like, oh no, I switched to whole milk, and that's not the right amount of bananas. And he ends up having to throw her drink out in order to make his. And it's a small thing. But, big things have small beginnings. And this is, again, another filmmaker thing I want you to pay attention to. When you look at that scene in terms of a writing perspective, let's forget the directing and the performance and all that. From a writing point of view, what's important about this scene? She wants to do something nice for him, and he does appreciate it. It's not that he's mean about it, but he immediately has to throw out her nice thing and do it the right way, because all he cares about is his success. And And then what happens after that? They have a cat. The cat gets on the couch. She loves the cat. She's just having fun with the cat. And he's like, "Get that cat off the couch. The couch is expensive. I worked for this." And she's like, "Well, the cat can lay on me." So she is adjusting to his needs every single time. And that's what their relationship is. Their relationship is she wants to do something nice for him, but it doesn't matter because it conflicts with his diet, it conflicts with his plans, it conflicts with this. And she just can't be in, she can't be in. And that's the way it is because he's got to do things his way. Every single scene they're in together, he is in the middle of a deal or dealing with a fight. Every single scene is about that. And she says, "I want you to let me in." And he just can't really express that way. It's just not how he's built. And yet, at the same time, he is talking to the people who can help him deal with it. But she tries to overcompensate for this lack of being able to be spoken to on the level of his issues. She tries to overcompensate by having more fun. Like, okay, well, then let's just get more distracted. And I think over the course of the movie, while he's dealing with his opiate addiction, even though it doesn't take that much of the movie, most of the movie is him just trying to stay clean. We kind of realize over the course of the movie, she's a bit of an alcoholic herself. She's slowly or becoming one, because over the course of the movie, they start off simpatico, peaceful, all good intentions, peace, zen. They start off that way. But the more he focuses on his work, and definitely once he has his first loss, and it seems to be he's more focused on the drugs at that point, that's when we have our real friction. And that's when things start to fall apart. To the point where he comes back from rehab and she's popping 4 Advils right in front of him, and she's drinking alcohol and having a hangover in front of him. And he's like, "This is not helping me. Like, they literally, like, their first scene is in the kitchen. The second scene of important drama is in the kitchen. And it's a bit, now she's in conflict. She's actually quite deliberately in conflict with his goals because she's feeling left out of the picture. Perhaps maybe she is selfish. It's hard to say because he's also living his life the way he wants to live it. And we just have these kind of two people who both want the same thing and want different things at the exact same time. And that's where their conflict is coming from. Like, they both want to love each other and support each other, but the way they do it, the way they want to do it, is completely in opposition. So it's interesting to watch their relationship. But I love that. What I want to say, another, I think, very good screenwriting thing. Again, like, their conflict starts small. "Oh, I didn't do your drink right. I'm sorry." "No, it's okay. I appreciate you. I love you." To, you know, her finding out he's doing drugs and keeping them from her when she visits him in Japan, to her being so tired of how he is. He's always like this, always laser focused. Now he's laser focused on not being around the bad stuff. And she just has a flip out of, like, "I'm tired of constantly adjusting for you." And he's like, "Well, I'm also adjusting for you in different ways." And it's like, a small conflict can grow. The first conflict is the seed that grows into what everything else becomes. But I love his scene in the first Japan sequence where he gets her that bowl, that very pretty bowl, and it's not even referred to until later on when they have their huge fight, and she smashes the bowl, in essence destroying the the good of the relationship, the fruit of the positive bearing fruit that came out of the relationship. And then it's a beautiful thing. I love that they take this break and she's just suddenly back when he's coming back and really working on himself. She's suddenly back and she brings as a gift, she's repaired the bowl. And so the bowl becomes this marker of their relationship. And that even her breaking it is her just resistance to this person that she's seeing in her life, first hiding drugs, now gone to rehab, now he's high and mighty, as she says, with his moral high ground. It's interesting to track this journey that they're both having, and you use the bowl to track it, use the location of the kitchen to track it, and he gets the haircut that we see at the end of the movie. Again, once he has the haircut, I was like, I don't even see The Rock anymore. I just see this guy. And then he has the goatee, and then he does the poses for the pictures. And I'm like, you don't look like you at all anymore. Whoever The Rock is has disappeared into this role. I just seriously, hats off to The Rock. But all their little conflicts, like, these are the markers that you use in your screenwriting to show where their conflict is. So I just think that was a really brilliant piece of writing because it's subtle, and in terms of direction, it's not called too much attention to, because when he does get her the bowl, he also gets her another nice thing, and it's kind of a pretty bowl. But it's something she would like. That's what matters. And so the repairing of the bowl. And then when it comes to the title itself, the title of this movie is The Smashing Machine. Simultaneously, we are not seeing a lot of fighting in the movie, but in the beginning of the movie, we do see the epic punching people in the face. Like, he is a smashing machine. He's straight up the Hulk. So when you get the title of The Smashing Machine, and those words are never said in the movie, the meaning is presented in the title, and you have to uncover it as you watch. Because part of the journey of this movie is Mark Kerr is dealing with his first loss. He loses a match in the first 30 minutes of the movie, and he's like, it's his first loss ever of so many fights. What happened was he was on the ground, down, and he was being kicked in the head by his opponent over and over and over again. And the reason he was like that was because, technically speaking, that was an illegal move. He was waiting for the referee to call it and stop it from happening, but that never happened. And so he ended up losing because he had been hit in the head so many times, he was technically knocked out for a few minutes. So, there's a poignancy to the scene, which is Emily Blunt and The Rock going out to see a demolition derby, and cars are smashing up against each other. There's a part where the cars are smashing into each other. One car in particular keeps ramming the other car, and the other car is clearly not even moving. You see the way it's shot, we get closer and closer to the car smashing into the other car. Simultaneously, we get closer and closer to The Rock, and we see him have a private moment. We're not cutting to his fight where he lost, but he's clearly remembering when the car is smashing into the front of the other car. We get the meaning of it as it's happening. It's unspoken, but it's communicated. The smashing of the cars triggers a memory in his head of being smashed in the head. So I do feel like it's poignant that the smashing machine himself is only affected when he sees another instance of smashing against a vehicle that can't handle it, to the point that the vehicle literally explodes and the driver has to be pulled out. and that's kind of a reflection of what happened to him. That to me is why titles are so important. I've talked about this before on my previous podcast, why it's great gut reaction, where I talk about Man of Steel and why the title matters. You know, the title is not just there to be a title. When you're talking about art, when you're talking about storytelling, when you're talking about film, every single thing matters. And I think what's beautiful about this movie is it's not overbearing. It doesn't get too dark or too much this or that. Or it's a perfect movie to analyze academically for things that you should be noticing as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. The things they do in this movie are perfect for marking where the character transforms or marking the progress of that transformation, and the filmmaking itself, how the camera gets closer to the smashing and also closer to the rock. These things are significant. It was written that way with intention, directed with intention. There's something, a clip I saw of an interview of Frances McDormand, which I happened to just see this morning, and I put it on my story on Instagram, which I think is significant. What Frances McDormand had said was she really cares about whether a director knows how the movie will be edited when they're shooting. And this is important because if you know what matters most in a scene, you will get that footage. Because that footage, it has meaning to the movie or will be used in a particular way that will be meaningful when it's all cut together. That's why directors shoot in a very specific way. And to that end, when we look at the car smashing scene, we don't need to cut away to a flashback of watching The Rock get kicked in the head again. We just know from watching, from getting closer and closer to the car smashing, to suddenly getting a close-up of The Rock in the same scene, we know from that by itself that, because also his close-up is separate from Emily Blunt. Not just so he gets his close-up, but it's because that's where he's in his own head. That's where he's thinking about the thing that happened to him. Because that's the subtext of why they're going out to have fun, because they're trying to get away from the issue that he's not quite dealing with properly. So it's directing with intention, knowing how you're going to edit. You direct each shot knowing that it's going to matter to the scene overall and to the movie overall. And the same thing is when we watch Emily Blunt smiling when she's in the spinning machine, the spinning UFO ride, that scene is there for a reason. It's about perspective, she says, before she gets in that ride and rolls around having fun. So literally, she is upside down. It's about perspective and the unspoken. So both that scene and this smashing scene, the subtext or what matters is unspoken, but it is still being presented to you. It's about perspective. When she's upside down, inference when life is upside down or when life is out of your control, such as you lose when you meant to win, it's okay. You're still hanging on to dear life. Or when the smashing cars, when that's just bringing him back to how his head was smashed and how he lost. That car lost, he lost, and came out, he came out wounded. His ego's destroyed. And that's what leads him to, in the following scene, having an off-camera overdose. Emily Blunt's performance in that regard, so real, so good. And, again, where do these addictions come from in the first place? There's a pain that you're trying to numb and avoid. I just watched, I haven't watched it all the way through, but I saw this wonderful clip from the Theo Von podcast where he's talking to Louis C.K. and they're talking about they both have sex addiction. But watching Louis C.K. and Theo Von talk about it, they're talking about like you're doing this thing because at one point it brought you all this peace and all this joy. And when you're feeling low and you're feeling stressed, you're desperate for that feeling of peace and joy again. But you can't have it. And no matter what you do, you're not going to get it back. And that was like really like, you're right, you're right. It was very helpful to listen to that. But also, as I'm watching Smashing Machine, I'm thinking, man, you're watching this guy just go straight to his drugs, before a fight, after a fight, and at home when he's alone, and look, his little private moments, and then to be busted. And that's something they talked about. Every boy over 7 knows what it is to have someone walk in the room when you're entertaining yourself, and how the embarrassment of it, the self-disgust, the disgust, the awkwardness with the other people, you know exactly what that is. And I knew exactly we all knew that's what happened when Emily Blunt walked in on the Rock when he was training with his buddy, and it was clear that he had just gotten high and his buddy was trying to hide it. And that's how the Rock was acting, like someone just walked in on him when he was entertaining himself, and the embarrassment of it. And I appreciate that the movie takes, kind of like Sound of Freedom, which also deals with a really heinous crime, but both movies dealt with these issues quite delicately and quite tastefully. And you do see him use drugs at least once, maybe twice. But what I think is amazing is we get to the point where he goes to rehab. He becomes a different person after rehab, or at least temporarily. He becomes a person who's really trying to be clean. And it really throws his girlfriend off, who has always been a party animal, apparently. And it ends up with them splitting apart. But when they split apart, he's completely able to be this laser-focused person who can do anything again. And he's getting back to working out. And that's when the girlfriend shows up again and brings back her stuff, brings back the bowl that she smashed, but now it's brought together with super glue, which is a very cute, sweet scene. But you can see right away the concern on his trainer's face, like, oh no, she's back. And I think in the movie, it really presents the entire situation from Mark's point of view, where it's like, you can't see that she may be a part of the problem as well, because she also has flaws and problems, where she likes to get drunk all the time and party all the time, a life she's allowed to have because he provides it, but nonetheless it is her way of escaping dealing with things. And it's powerful. It's powerful that she has her own problem, clearly, she needs to deal with. And he calls her out on it. Like, you got your own inside head job you got to work on. And that ends up leading to their third kitchen scene together, leads to her going upstairs, opening up a safe. Literally, this is the first time I've been in a movie and I thought, who the hell is texting right now? Because I hear beep, 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 beep. I'm like, who didn't turn off their phone? What's going on? And then no. The next thing we see is her put a gun to her head. And it does feel a bit like a cry for attention, but like also a genuine cry for attention. Like, she is not feeling right. She's really got something she's got to deal with. And I think what's beautiful about that is, first of all, he saves her. Wonderful. She saved him with the OD, and now he's stopping her from harming herself. And they both clearly, you realize with this conflict, like, she self-medicates with the partying and the drinking and the fun. He is trying to recover from that and realizing, oh no, she brings the drinking because she brings the fun. And this, he realizes this is not a healthy relationship and tells her to leave. He does the most mature, responsible thing you can possibly do when you realize that you're in a toxic relationship, is that somebody's got to go. And if you're not leaving, then the other person's got to leave. And it was so beautiful and touching that he did that, because he realizes the same reason that his trainer looked at her coming back into his life suspiciously. He realizes she's part of the problem. But then she does what she does, and it's very clear she needs some help too. The fact that I realize that when we see her privately, she's always doing something fun. Like, she's chasing fun, as far as I'm concerned, which includes the alcohol and everything. She's chasing fun the wrong way, just as much as he's chasing his dream. And I think even the opiate was a way for him to have it all. It was a way for him to win everything while also not taking on the effects of that extreme stress that it takes to do that much work and accomplish so much. That extreme amount of stress it takes, he's getting off of his, but there's a price to it, and the price is ODing. And the same with her, chasing fun and love and attention constantly because of whatever it is that may have happened, or even if it's just this relationship and she's just feeling like she doesn't matter in comparison to his dreams, which is kind of a painful thing. Even if she's just chasing for this relationship, you realize that both of these people are horribly flawed, and perhaps were drawn together by this flaw. And I think it's very beautiful how when we get to, I'm glad she ends up getting arrested, but taken away to deal with her mental health, not like as a crime or anything, but she's taken away to have to deal with her mental health. And he gets to be completely focused in Japan at the end, and he still loses. And this is why I meant to say it in my spoiler-free review, but I didn't want to spoil the movie. I do feel like this is a movie that 100%, this movie is today's Rocky, because we have a masculine guy who can wreck anything he touches if he wants to, but he's so nice and he's so kind and he's a very sweet, well-intended guy, and yet his 100% focus has made him alienate his girlfriend. Now his group of friends that he works out with, they understand because they've got to do the same thing. But you may be able to infer from Mark Coleman's life that clearly, when he's with his family, he's with his family. And it's, even though it's only one scene, when we see that adorable scene of who's going to win this little fight, and he's pretending to fight with his daughter, and then, she's not really punching back, so he just goes, okay, dad wins, and so, you see a little bit, he wants to be a winner, but at the same time, you see that when he's with his family, he's with his family. And his wife may be a bit exhausted, but she's seeing him be with his family. And that's just not how Mark Kerr operates. Even when he's with his beloved, his mind is on the job and how he's going to accomplish the next thing. And I think when he gets that chance to just focus, because, he does have his fight with her before the fight that he lost. So in a way, it's like kind of the suggestion of not only where is your mind at, but your personal life absolutely affects your career. There's no two ways about it. But it's a beautiful thing that when he is fighting and he gets that time to focus and completely give into the fight, it's easy to think he lost the first fight because he had a fight with his girlfriend prior to it starting. And I would say no. I think he lost the first fight as soon as he was talking to the interviewer who was making him think about losing. And I think I do want to talk about this a little bit. The opening of the movie, or the first Japan sequence, it does feel like forces manipulated the situation. First, we have the interview where the interviewer is just so stubborn. Can you imagine what it's like to lose? And you know that because we get a close up of The Rock when he's saying this, we know that Mark Kerr is there's a subtle trigger. It's not revealed yet, but because of the next scene, he's high, and that's when the awkward "you walked in on me high" situation. Because of that, that's why I think this is all kind of a psyop. Because he gets told the rules, he follows the rules, he does everything right, and he still loses, and he even gets knocked out because he's following the rule. His opponent wins anyway. It's easy to think that his fight with her must have been like the straw that broke the camel's back, and maybe that's why he lost. But in this ending, she wasn't there. He had no distractions. He was 100% focused, and yet he still lost. He still got taken down, even though he believed in himself this time and had the time to focus. But you see, the subjective editing occurs when he's being kicked when he's down. We're seeing all the flashbacks with Emily Blunt leading up to this moment, including the smashing of the bowl. Okay, but what's beautiful about this? The reason I brought up the spinning UFO machine, right? And how she's smiling, she's by herself. And even The Rock afterward is on a merry-go-round because it's easier for his tummy. I think the most beautiful thing is when Mark Coleman ends up going up for the competition and fighting his fight. And you see The Rock, he's being patched up. He's being put back together like the bull. And then when he's in the shower, he just has this peaceful look on his face. And then he just starts laughing. And he starts laughing in a way that seems almost exactly like Emily Blunt laughing on the spinning machine. And so it's like you see in that moment he's learned his lesson. He's finally learned his lesson and learned to accept failure as part of what happens. He shows by this end that he's learned his lesson. He's learned how to accept defeat and just keep rolling. I think this was a really good movie. It was a really easy movie to talk about in terms of things filmmakers should be looking for. But yeah, Smashing Machine, hats off, great time. Yeah, I support this movie. I think it was solid. What do you think? What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite scene in the movie? Please let me know in the comments. Let's talk about movies. If you love movies as much as I do or more, let me know in the comments because you're my people. So thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, mahalo and aloha, and hopefully I'll see you next time.